in product work particularly, and particularly as it pertains to the very ambiguous work of what product to build,
Hmm.
in what order to build it, how to sell it, how to make macro and micro decisions, uh, whether to address a customer concern or not, whether to drop something from our standard roadmap to address a customer ask, if it's a large customer or a strategic customer, whether to build a feature we know is not going to get used by users but will enable us to charge. So it's basically not a value feature; it's a monetization feature. These types of questions come up all the time for product people, uh, and product success really is not just about getting things done, because yeah, it is important to get things done. It's a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition, because the sufficient condition is that you're getting the right things done, which means that you're
Hmm.
making good choices and often optimal choices when you're faced with these questions that I just listed. And one common challenge I see is that the higher IQ the person, the more difficult it is for that person to appreciate and empathize with points of view other than their own personal points of view, right? And like with
Hmm.
anything in life, this is not 100% um, guarantee that this will happen. It's all about whether there's a high correlation or not. And when you work on these highly talented teams of like highly accomplished people, uh, you will end up with a bunch of people that have extremely high IQs. They're always correct, right? When there is factual question, right? There are many people,
Hmm.
like, and up to certain extent, I counted myself as one of those people. I'm always correct, right? You give me a mathematics problem, I'm always correct, right? Or you give me a question about some event in history, I'm always correct, or at least I'm always correct to the extent that the reference book validates it, right? Uh, who knows what happened in history, but like at least the reference book says I'm correct, right? So, so what ends up happening sometimes in teamwork is we are discussing some issue, and maybe it's some urgent customer ask, right? And there might be somebody on your team, right, who's just like very high IQ. They're just like very clearly sharp and smart, right? And they're also quick on their feet, right? So it's easy to kind of shut something down through a very like intelligent argument, which is
Hmm.
like, well, you know, yeah, I see why they're asking for it. Uh, but this is how I would do it. And clearly, this is the smarter way to do it, right? They should not be using CSV uploads. They should just be, I don't know, they should just be doing webhook uh,
Yeah.
integration. And that's so much better. That's so much simpler. And this is so prone to errors. It's manual and it's just not the right thing, right? I'm just using some simple example.
Yeah.
But we all encounter these examples and we all encounter these individuals. And sometimes we ourselves are those individuals. I have been this individual in many
Yeah.
rooms in the past. Uh, and that gets in our way, right? That gets in our way of actually thinking about the problem more from a, again, human comprehension problem, right? Which is like, oh, yes, this might be the ideal way of doing things,
Hmm.
but organizations are not ideal, teams are not ideal, processes are not ideal. And to get to that ideal state, to get to your customer to the ideal state, you have zero to no control,
Hmm.
right? And so, yes, it's fine to say, well, this is an antiquated way of doing things. But if that's how your customer is used to doing things, and that is part of their mission critical process, right? It is foolish to kind of dismiss it as like, well, this is stupid, right? We clearly have a better way. And you know what? Let's put that better way on our website. Let's say no to all CSVs or whatever the case might be, right? And you think that you're doing something great. But if you're going after an enterprise customer, right, where the department head who's going to be the recommender for your product wants to preserve his or her job or wants to make his or her job easier, right?
Mm.
You are basically doing an anti-sell, which is like, please don't buy
Yeah.
my product because it's going to require a lot of disruption to you.
Yeah.
And we do these kinds of things, both again on the side of like deciding what to
Mm.
build, how to build it, and then how to market it, right? And all along,
Yeah.
we think we are doing the right thing, right? So it is important now. So what's the solution here? Like the solution is not to lower one's IQ, right?
Mm.
Like high IQ is a great asset, but the
Yeah.
solution is to really understand that there will always be different perspectives on these situations of human comprehension.
Mm.
Not like human beings, you know, as soon as a group becomes a group, whether it's a group of 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, human beings are not going to see the same situation in the same way, right? This is a fundamental reality that goes well beyond products, right? Like, and it goes into all sorts of things like geopolitics and society, right?
Absolutely.
So that recognition that people think
Mm.
differently than me, and that is
Mm.
okay.
Mm.
And also, I need these people that think differently from me, even if I might have some disdain for their antiquated ways of looking at things. I need them because they're a revenue source for me. I am in service of for them or to them. That
Yeah.
humility becomes very essential.